Hello. That's weird. Hopefully the sound works. Let me check my settings. I did start with the future is so bright, I've got to wear shades. And here we are. Anyway, let's get into the story. Sound, hopefully. There's a time delay. Anyway, I was just saying that everything is on fire. CEP is up 33%, HODL up 26%, Tesla up 10%, Bitcoin up a big truckload, I think. Let me pull up everything else. Bitcoin nearly at 1.9 trillion, 95.6 up $1,600 today. Everything is doing really well, so it's a good day. But let's get into the story. Today is Friday Fire. This is where I talk about the crazy things that are happening this week that you may have missed. And thank you, B. McGee, and everybody for being here. I see Jacob in here too, and TND Tesla, and Sean Donnelly, and K8. Let's get into the story real quick. It's Friday. I'm between you and the pubs. And disclaimer, not financial advice. And thank you to Lemon Geckos, big fan and Patreon member, sent a love from Sri Lanka. Hello, Sri Lanka. What a cool country. Great people from there. Fear and greed. First of all, let's look at the crypto fear and greed. It's back up to 60. We were down at like 10 a couple of weeks back. And boy, has this been a big rebound. But we haven't gone into real heavy greed or extreme greed yet. So a ways to go. Stock market fear and greed, still in fear. You would not believe that if you looked at the actual stocks right now. They are on fire. Everything is ripping higher. And I'm going to break down why that's actually happening as well today in today's video. First of all, let's set the stage for some of the big macro stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about the macro at the front, in the middle, and towards the end, because it impacts our bags. And this from the Federal Reserve announces the withdrawal of guidance for banks related to their crypto asset and dollar token activities and related changes to its expectations for these activities. What this basically means is the banks can now unleash the beast. Okay, Saylor is very excited about this. This is one of the key things that he believes is required for Bitcoin to hit $1 million. But when U.S. banking regulators announced on Thursday, they're pulling back several documents that urge banks to show caution and not to dabble in cryptocurrency and crypto-related activities. This is crazy. Withdrawing these supervisory letters and stipulating the banks should seek approval from regulators before engaging in crypto asset and stablecoin activities is now gone. We are seeing crazy stuff happening with players like Visa and MasterCard. They are moving to the blockchain fast because they know in order to survive, you've got to embrace or die, everybody. I use that term a lot on this channel. Do not be afraid of change. Embrace it or else suffer the consequences. And banks are now free to support Bitcoin, which is cool. And of course, other cryptos too. Shout out to Michael Saylor. And this is a kind of a chart. I did promise you all, I said with 80 to 90% chance that Bitcoin would explode by May 1st of this year. We are 5 days away. It's already exploding ahead of time. So my timeline was off. We are running early. And that's okay. I hope you can forgive me. It's kicking in sooner than I anticipated. And Bitcoin has already surged 25% in the past 17 days. What the hell is going on here, ladies and gentlemen? This is the global M2, and now Bitcoin is beginning to propel forward. And shout out to FarFig Newton. There's lots of leverage longs at 92,500. Bitcoin price about 95.5 right now. And what that means is the market makers may go hunt your leverage long. So if you are a 25x or 50x leverage long at 92.5 and the Bitcoin price above 95, it doesn't mean you're safe. They can wick down there when they want to grab your bag. So be careful, add some collateral. You're not out of the woods yet. Now, let's talk about this chart. This is a kind of a cleaned up chart from Michael R. Sullivan. And he talks about the trustee Bitcoin over M2 global liquidity chart. And he also remarked, like I have been noticing as well the last few days, is Bitcoin is beginning to rip. So per his chart, what's interesting about this If the pattern follows, and it has been, and it's just begun to move, this could bring us on a straight rip to a $200,000 Bitcoin price. I know that sounds like hopium. Don't take that to the bank. But I do have some other interesting charts as well. In fact, I don't know if I shared it here, but I just shared it on Patreon. Yeah, I forgot to add it to the deck. That's okay, though. But the top and bottom indicator is still cool. And Lilo is now saying Bitcoin price could hit 195,000. Only a 10% chance of that happening, however, but that is confluent with Sully's rip to 200,000. Again, hopium, but there's more stuff coming from the world that I'll share today. Bitcoin broccoli, thank you, and Forrest. Everybody's happy today. Thanks all for coming. Happy Friday. ETFs, near record flows. We had 2 near $1 billion days and $500 million yesterday, and the ETFs are pumping fast. It's as if TradFi sells the bottom, they wait for a 25% rebound, and then they jump in headlong. Invested, thank you as well. And Rusty Bot, good to see you out there. This is kind of crazy. It's the same thing every single time. The cycles are very random, and the people that invest, their timing is horrific sometimes. You buy bottoms, you sell tops, you don't sell bottoms, and then wait for 25% recovery before you jump in, but that's what happened. Anyhow, ETFs are back, which is good. But the bigger story is coming. First of all, I shared the top and bottom indicator and the Lilo model on Patreon. I forgot to put in the deck, my bad. But anyway, check it there if you want. But there's still no overheating as yet, which is the good news for Bitcoin. People thought, literally 20% of people thought the Bitcoin bull market was over 3 or 4 weeks ago. They were wrong, as we said here. Anyway, Saifedean was also talking with Pump, and he, in a very hyper, and I know people will hear this and go nuts, but he is one of the best brains in Bitcoin, I believe. His book is phenomenal, and everybody should read it. It'll really make a penny drop for you as a Bitcoin investor. But Saifedean believes Bitcoin could hit $100 trillion market cap. And I know you're asking, what does that mean in terms of price? Well, that's a $5.2 million Bitcoin, which again, sounds crazy. It's like Bitcoin ripping to 200K sounds like a nothing burger compared to a $5.2 million Bitcoin. But remember, if this happens, this is all driven by, guess what? Fiat going to zero. And that is one of the key things that we will discuss today. And that's why the market is nervous. That's why people are investing. They need that life raft, as you know. Now, getting back to stealthy stacking, what is going on out there in the marketplace? Well, a couple of people believe that sovereign wealth funds and big institutions, including a whole bunch of names that you probably know, while the retail investors dump their ETFs, sovereign wealth funds are stacking. And this from Coinbase's John D'Agostino. He said a lot of stealthy stack. He didn't use the term stealthy stacking, that's my term, but a lot of stacking is happening out there. And institutional demand is tied to de-dollarization, inflation hedging, and a shift away from tech stock correlations. This is super, super interesting. And this also corresponds to my wallet analysis, as you may have seen, what I call the wealth pyramid, the cohorts, and the allocations by wallets. And I noticed that the cohort with 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin has exploded like never before. It's now the biggest cohort there. People that have, say, 1,000 Bitcoin in a wallet tend to be either institutions or governments or big treasury organizations. These are not retail investors. And this is corresponding now to that as well. And BlackRock, not just Coinbase, but BlackRock also said, this from Quinton, reports that central banks are actively seeking to diversify into Bitcoin amid shifting global financial dynamics. I did mention as well last week and again on Monday on DCA that the fact that gold is so high, is a great thing for Bitcoin because it's only a matter of time before it follows, because Bitcoin is a better gold. It's not hard, everybody. Bitcoin Bull is here. Thank you so much for coming. You're all amazing. So again, these reports from multiple sources all say the same thing. Stealthy stacking is happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's not you retail investors, it's bigger players. And that's great for Bitcoin price. Also, why is the so-called smart money now moving to Bitcoin? What is the catalyst? This is from the Bitcoin Breakdown. They ran a survey with about 4,000 responses. Number one reason is the loss of faith in fiat. People know infinite money printing will continue, and they know Bitcoin is hard, and that is a solution to that. Related to that, too, is sustained high inflation, which is tied to loss of faith in fiat. You could actually lump number one and number two together. And then geopolitical instability, 22.5%. That's the reason for gold being so strong so far over the last 6 months. Central banks are concerned about geopolitical stability. I'll share some macro charts that show just that too. And then speculative attacks, not so important, but 15%. So again, fiat is going to zero, and people need that hedge. That's what's driving smart money to Bitcoin and big players too. Now, another quiver, as they say. Lucius Messer urges the Swiss central bank to hold Bitcoin at the annual shareholders meeting. He is one of a couple of players that have been urging this for a while, and Switzerland is a very Bitcoin-friendly, crypto-forward land. And in addition, don't forget, Swiss Central Bank also hold a ton of MicroStrategy. They can stack MicroStrategy easily without getting specific approvals. That's what makes MicroStrategy so special. It's an on-ramp for many, for those friends here in the UK and other places. It's the only on-ramp to Bitcoin, and it's been a glorious one too. So the Swiss want in, as well as other sovereigns that are already stacking. It's all happening, our friends. Game theory is going into high gear at last. And another land, yet another country. This is from the Bitcoiner Prince Philippe. And let me try to remember. He's in Serbia. Try to remember the country. He expects an Omega candle due to Bitcoin's economic properties, but warns he has a feeling that Bitcoin price is being suppressed by market makers. But he does anticipate a lot of big moves coming, more $10,000 a day moves. He's have one or two of those so far. And that's a God candle. And after that, he anticipates we will see an Omega candle. An Omega candle is more than a God candle, which is 10,000. But I'm not getting religious here. These are technical financial terms. Bear that in mind. But he sees, this is Prince Philippe of Serbia. He sees Omega candles coming. These are $100,000 increments in a day. And Samson Mao also said that too in a video, that he expects that to happen as well. Can you imagine Bitcoin price going up 100 grand in a day? You're sitting there watching the chart. That would be a popcorn moment. Maybe a bottle of champagne too. Anyway, if it ever does happen, I promise you, I'll be live no matter where. And I may have to eat a shoe or something as well. But again, some people are now really talking up these Omega candles. And shout out to Michael Saylor and the Bitcoin Therapist. He wrote this very articulate little piece, and I had to share it because it was so good. He describes the most important to man in finance. His name is Michael Saylor. His company Strategy is worth $93 billion. 5 years ago, the business was worth $1 billion. What did he do to 100x his business? The answer is not hard. He bought Bitcoin. And the other fun part is, after 5 years now, everybody is copying him. Okay? And I'm proud to say I was in very early. That's the way I played this game. My first MicroStrategy buy was in September 2020. And it's been, how do I say, very kind to all of us who have been on this train. Trade of the decade. And speaking of copying, Semler Scientific, the race is on. They just bought another 111 Bitcoin. Again, these players are stacking left, right, and center all the time. Semler now have 3,303 Bitcoin, and they bought 111 Bitcoin. I like their patterns and numbers. It's not a coincidence as well. No such thing as coincidence. So the race is on for stacking globally, and this is the only hard, truly scarce asset on the planet. Now, people still have a little PTSD. I did a little poll this morning for giggles. Once Bitcoin hit 95K, we had to get, I was watching a 94K last night. I was like, this resistance here, this resistance at 94K is brutal. We were tapping it for like 6-8 times in a very short window. And once we got above it, we got to 95K very quickly. And Bitcoin's up 25% in 17 days. Global liquidity is pumping like mad. And Bitcoin's chasing M2. We've covered that in many videos right now. The question I asked was, what will hit first? $100,000 Bitcoin or $90,000 Bitcoin? And a third of you, literally 32.4% of you, still believe we're heading to 90K. Again, the PTSD is still there. Sometimes, everybody, you got to step back, look at all the data, look at all the stacking, look at the seasonality, look what governments are doing around the world. Think about the SBR. Think about all the pension funds looking to diversify. Look at the gold price. There's like 1,000 different signals that will tell you this is a bullish time to be in Bitcoin. Anyway, at least 67.6% of you, after 1,000 votes, said Bitcoin hits 100,000 first. But a lot of people are still very nervous out there. So look at the data, everybody. It has all the answers. And this is an amazing chart from CoinGlass or Glassnode. I can't remember. Hang on, let me try zoom in to see who put that chart together. Glassnode. And it looks at all of the relative market caps of the different assets in crypto. So Bitcoin is blue, and you can see the dominance is really high, approaching 60%. Ethereum is that chunk in the middle that is kind of like that patterny color, which is Ethereum, which is Ethereum. I think it's the shrinking one in the middle. And then altcoins are the big piece of blue at the top, and stable coins are the dark gray. But I want to point out that little light gray, because I did do a Solana video yesterday. That little tiny sliver of this total market cap share does 70% of all the transactions on crypto. That's called undervalued, my friends. And that's just how it works. One chain does it all. The winner is taking most, but is still very undervalued. And people are beginning to recognize this too. I've been talking about it since 2021, but here we are. Sometimes it takes people to catch on to things like MicroStrategy and now Solana as well. But we see all the new treasuries coming too, which is pretty mind-blowing as well. Remember, these treasuries can stack way faster than you or I ever can. And we had a little bit of a regulation change come out last night. This is the Transportation Department outlined exemptions allowing U.S. companies to bypass specific safety regulations for self-driving vehicles using research, demonstrations, and non-commercial settings, slashing red tape. Thank you, Mr. Mike, for coming. Happy Friday. This is huge, okay? To streamline and simplify on a federal basis rather than state-by-state basis will make this puppy rip. Tesla Robotaxi, self-driving autonomous vehicle. U.S. wants to remain first in transportation. Absolutely critical for them to win this game because the Chinese are coming. And I think there's a key little note here. We're in a race with China to out-innovate, and the stakes couldn't be higher. So shout out to this guy, Sean Duffy. Never heard of him until yesterday, but he understands what's up. So well done, Sean. This is not a game of car makers against car makers. It's nations against nations. And again, like everything else, winners take most. And yes, from LAX guy, FSD is mind-blowing. I no longer drive. I no longer trust myself. It's bizarre. Anywho, Elon says it's worth it. I think FSD is far too cheap, in my humble opinion. Your chauffeur every single day costs you less than the cost of a cup of coffee, and it'll save your life. Countless numbers of people in the Patreon community. FSD has saved not only their wives, their children, cars running red lights, etc. FSD and Tesla vehicles avoid accidents. Their accidents avoidance system is second to none, and it's a lifesaver and also helps make driving very stress-free too. And this is a cool little video from the Cyberbulls that were on this morning. I am a Cyberbulls member. I'm on once a month with this great gang. But what was very profound about the Cyberbulls today, they got on the subject of money printing and hard assets. And they said there's two things you need. And for the first time, I've ever heard them on this actual station, not talking Tesla. They said you need Bitcoin and Tesla. And it's no coincidence. I'm literally 80% of me is Bitcoin / MicroStrategy and Tesla for this exact reason. So it's great to see that even the Cyberbulls are talking it up as well. Now, a little bit of bad news, a little bit of macro news. Speaking about sovereign wealth funds, we know Norway has a lot of MicroStrategy as well, but they've lost $40 billion in the first quarter on the tech downturn. Of course, a lot of that recovery is happening. But if you feel like your portfolio has gone down in Q1 of 2025, you are not alone. Everybody lost money, but the recovery is wicked fast. Let me have a quick look at what's going on in the market. Bitcoin 95.2, Tesla up $25 on the nose, 10%. Gold down $60, and Bitcoin is up. Nice to see. Bitcoin up $1,600, gold down $60. So we're beginning to see that rotation perhaps out of gold into Bitcoin. But again, Norway sovereign wealth fund will probably find ways to stack more Bitcoin real soon. They already have some in the form of MicroStrategy, just like the Swiss National Bank. We shall see if this continues or if they go for the pure form. Either way, it's all good. And this is the ugly, scary news. This is Friday Fire, where I share the good, the bad, and the ugly, especially things that are kind of a little bit extreme. But this is the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index. It dropped 8.1% in April. Third negative print this year. This is worse than the year 2008. And this indicates stagflation. Stagflation is when there's no growth and inflation. And it's a very ugly situation. This is from Lizanne Saunders, posted by Kobesi. So the macro remains ugly. But as I say, by the time you realize you're in a recession or things are really bad, the market's already rebounding. And we see that happening right now as well. Another piece of ugly news too is the U.S. Consumer Sentiment Index fell 6.2 points to 50.8 in April. This is the second lowest ever sentiment on record. Okay, people's confidence is in the toilet, ladies and gentlemen. It's really bad. But you know what happens after it gets to the second lowest level on record? It rebounds. And that's just the way markets work. Meme of the day. Today we've got two. I thought this was very funny. I don't know where I saw it yesterday, but did you know your back hurts because you do not have enough Bitcoin? Let me know if that is true out there and if you all agree. And I took the same meme du jour and created a second one. And did you know your back hurts because you do not have enough Tesla? Again, Cyberbulls are saying you need to stack Bitcoin and Tesla. They're probably right. That's what I do. Thank you all for coming. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you to the great mods in the chat as well. TNT Tesla, Sean Donnelly, K8, and Dex in the UK. Thank you for being here. Is Dex in the UK? Yeah, he is. Dex in the UK and Team LA. LA guy, LAX guy. Thanks all for coming. Have a good night. Talk to you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.